Hey everybody, it's Tafony here once again. Hope you're doing well. Today I'm rambling about the Novation Circuit Mono Station. It sounds like this. Okay, before we get started, huge shout out, huge thank you to Scrollbotasaurus for lending me this one for this video. I can't thank you enough. Anyone who's lent me gear or participated in the Discord, been here helping me out, I really appreciate you all. And Scrollbot has done all of those things, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, tiny bit of context, one of the first synthesizers I had, maybe if not the first groove box I ever had, was the original Novation Circuit. I'm a little spotty on whether or not that was actually before the Digitakt 1 that I traded the DX7 for. I've talked about that in a couple videos, but the original Circuit, the one that had digital synth engines and just stopped here, basically, I loved that thing. I remember just like being like, wow, groove boxes, you can make whole songs on like a single device. That's so cool. But booting this up again here today, seeing those neon pads again, I'm just overwhelmed with nostalgia. I gotta do an episode on that original Circuit again because I'm like, yeah, that thing was awesome. Anyway, let's get into the Mono Station. So what is the Mono Station? Basically the sequencer and the overall architecture of that aforementioned circuit, but pairing it with sort of a trimmed down version of the base station, which is a very good thing. The original was a legend. The second one is an extremely ubiquitous synth for a reason. I really like it. And one of the best regarded synths is the Novation Peak, which basically just set out to be a polyphonic base station. So before I get into the modulation, the sequence and everything, I think the best place to start is just on listening to the bottom row of the synthesizer section because it sounds so good. But just for context, I'm in the Novie right now. I can manually punch in some notes. Maybe I'll just add a dead simple sequence of 4 of them so we can do some tweaking. So right now there's Oscillator chorus tune. You can go up and down an octave, which is nice. It's center detented, as is the fine knob. I think this will go 1 semitone up and down. Go back to the middle. We can just switch our octave range. And, oh, listen to that low end. Hope that's coming through on your end. For 8 feet, 4 feet. Let's just go to 8 feet for right now. And we'll go to triangle wave. Sounds so nice. The saws sound great. Here is the square with PWM. Maybe let's go back to the sine because I thought it would actually sound pretty juicy. I'm not usually a big sine fan, but this sounds really nice right now. Bring in the sub, so you have 1 octave down, I believe. I'm not sure if it's addressable in the settings somewhere. You can choose an octave, but here's a sub. Let's bring that up a little bit just so they both have a little more room to breathe. And notice these are jump encoders. I don't know if they are changeable in the menus. I like catch encoders myself, but at least in the configuration, at least in this configuration currently, they are jump. Here's noise. That's some white noise. But interestingly, ring mod. This really reminds me of the Peak, just having a dedicated mixer pre-set up to ring mod them. So now we're ring modding 1 and 2. Let's bring 2 in. So it has 2 oscillators, but the panel only displays information for 1. If we switch over to oscillator 2, let's bring oscillator 2 in. And it's exactly the same, but you see everything's teal now versus purple, the same as these buttons to select them. So we're looking at oscillator 1, which we're not listening to, although we are listening to the sub. But these are paraphonic, so you can also sequence them differently. If I wanted to come in here and do things a little bit differently, let's go up an octave range so we can actually hear differences. There's some paraphonic sorcery. And I want to point something out here. When I'm looking at Oscillator 2 and manually tapping it, you don't hear anything because the VCA is being opened by Oscillator 1. And a lot of the paraphony options on here, like, I'm hesitant to be like, oh, I don't see why we need them, because, like, you know, having more options to explore is usually always a good thing, but I am a little bit puzzled by why you would want to sequence their pitches differently. I guess you could create sort of two-note chord inversions on the fly if you wanted to. But I think that is, in a way, missing what made the bass station sound so great, right? Like, this thing just excels at bass lines, you know what I mean? Okay, so let's go in and hit play again. So again, Oscillator 1 is opening Oscillator 2. And you can sync them. You can do a whole bunch of other stuff, but see, again, because it's paraphonic, we're getting some weirdness. I'm listening to sub, but the amp is being opened by the first oscillator, which we're not hearing, right? So if we bring them both in, there's a lot of novel trickery that you can do with the paraphonic mode, but I just think the best use of the second oscillator is to fatten up the first. Right? Let's try and make them both saws for fun, right? Get some of that synciness. And as always, this low end just like, I don't know what it is they have going on, but we haven't even started filtering yet. So on that note, we've got two of these. Let's bring in the sub. Let's go up an octave maybe just to give that sub oscillator some more room. And the analog filter, no resonance right now, 12 dB mode. It sounds excellent. That was true of the bass station, that is true of the peak, and that is true of the mono station. Overdrive in just like those other synths. Nice. Listen to that. It just like, it sounds so good. There's a reason why this filter encoder has this huge cap on it, because you're going to want to just like do this all day, right? Resonance up to noon. Yeah. Let's go a little less overdrive. Yeah. 24 dB for a little more aggressive slope. Yeah. And if we blast the resonance, we just get super throaty. Yeah. Try more overdrive, less resonance. This thing, when you just like annihilate this filter, there's great bass lines. On that note, you can bypass certain stuff. So we bring in the noise, you can bypass the noise. If you get really creative with it, you could bypass the noise and just have like a snare hit on a note, right? And we'll talk about sort of parameter locking and some electron style trickery here in a moment here. You can also bypass Oscillator 2 or the noise as well. But again, a huge volume jump when we're in this crazy low end. We'll turn the volume down a little bit. But again, paraphonic trickery, right? If I filter the crap out of the first oscillator and bypass the second, there's some interesting stuff to be had. But all of this sort of, I don't know, makes me wish I had like 3 of them. You know what I mean? Like, I would just love to have an entire kit made out of bass station magic, right? Bypass both. We'll get into some bass station magic in a second, but like, it sounds so good. All right, here's band pass. I'll show you this. This just like can get absolutely crazy. We'll turn the resonance down a little bit, make our slope a little more subtle. Less overdrive. And maybe we'll spice this up a little bit with a lot more notes. I'm not sure what scale this is quantized to, but if we get a kind of big quick bass line going. Here we go. Maybe I'll take the tempo up a little bit. Man, seeing these numbers pop up on the screen again is just like so much circuit nostalgia. Here comes 140. Maybe not that quite. Maybe not that fast. 24 dB. And we can key track, if I hold shift and hit key tracking on Oscillator 1, Again, I'm going to complain about lack of screen in a bit here, but this is the sort of thing, as an overall thing, like, if there was a screen that said key tracking and a percentage, you know, right? When I'm in here, I'm like, oh yes, I'm in orange, and I think I'm in orange, but red, right? And so if you're super familiar with this, you're probably screaming out, no, red means off, but anyway, this is why screen's good. And if they came out with a sequel to the original circuit, I just would love to see a screen. They have to, right? It's the only thing it's missing. Crank the resonance. Yeah. Like the subtler slope for the bandpass is nice. Overdrive the crap out of it, maybe a little less resonance. Yeah. And on that note, let's switch this over to square wave, because good for basses. If we do double squares, quickly show you high pass before we get into distortion. I wouldn't use this too often, but can do some fun self-oscillating squelchiness. But because we're feeling some acid today, here comes the bandpass and here comes the distortion. So this is type 1. And 303 is jealous. Listen to that. Yeah. Type 2. So this is after the filter. Maybe I'll turn the overdrive going in down a little bit. Take the ring mod off. Bring some noise up. Type 3. When you get into some of that self-oscillation territory, we'll just get super squelchy. Yeah. So that's the synth engine. It's super straightforward and sounds really freaking good. So moving on to the top row now, we have master volume. Nothing too noteworthy there. There's tap tempo here and a tempo encoder, so you can manually enter the BPM as shown on the screen here, or tap it in here. And then LFO section, this is super interesting. There's like so these can either be free running or sync. And the weird thing about the sync here though is it isn't clock synced, it's like trigger synced. So if I set it to be the saw wave, it's like resetting at random. Or you can have it, I don't know, this isn't clock division. Anyway, I just keep them free running for that reason. It's a little bizarre. Sample and hold, square for sort of like triggers, sample and hold for sort of like random. If we go into triangle wave, it's probably where you're going to hang out most of the time. Put it down into a slower rate, and then we'll modulate some stuff. Envelope here, normal to the VCA. Let's go to low pass mode just to get things a little more straightforward for now. Super snappy, snapping out of existence. But a really nice envelope on these. I have a friend of mine who was convinced that like analog envelopes and analog VCAs are actually some of the magic to analog synths. I've said it before, I'm saying it now. I kind of believe that. Listen to that. Just a huge square wave. So, one of the best parts about the Circuit Mono Station though, this modulation matrix, dead simple and super intuitive. So you can apply this envelope to all these different spots. Pause that for a moment so it's not super distracting. So super easy to assign this to the two different oscillators and all the different patch points. So we're standing on oscillator 1. We can see as indicated in purple up here which one we're looking at, and then you select a source and how much, and it's just like stupid intuitive. I wish the peak was this intuitive because it's just so easy, and maybe it's just a little simpler as well, and that's okay. Like, just, I don't know, removing the barriers to getting at the modulation is super useful to me. So if we hit play, we're looking at envelope, we're looking at oscillator 1 as indicated by the purple up top. I want to apply it to the filter, so we'll open the filter a little bit, and then we can send it positive. There is no through zero, which is kind of a shame. Not really useful for the envelope, but when we get in the LFO, it has to either be positive or negative, kind of like electron boxes, I believe. A little unfortunate, but that's okay. Hit play. More to the right. So see my filters opening like all the way. And as you get to the middle, there's a very, very hard to find off, as indicated by blue. I wish it had kind of a bigger dead zone, because sometimes when you're trying to turn off your modulation, it's like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I missed it. Where is it? Go back. There's the blue. Fuck. there it is. So you can go negative. So if I open it all the way and then we'll just duck it. That actually sounds kind of cool. Yeah. Also, distortion. This is a great patch point. I'm glad they included this. It was maybe for funness with the LFO on there, so select the distortion. How much? I want to decrease it maybe. No, let's go increase, so across through that middle. So my LFO here, as you can see, is modulating the distortion. Yeah. Filter as well. Maybe the envelope can just modulate that a little bit, because movement is always good. Amp as well. And then sequence. Another incredible thing about the Mono Station is the modulation sequence. So, play. We're looking at sequence here right now. You select the mod sequence with this button here, and this actually confused me a bit at first because this is sequencing just like the pitch sequencing and the gate triggering on the other sequences, but when you hold steps here and press to assign them, I don't know what these are assigning on this screen, and this is what's messing me up. I was like, why isn't this changing anything, right, when I am modulating the amp? Well, the reason is because, or I need to find that center point again, let's modulate the filter. So we're going to use our sequence to cut the filter off a little bit more. What you need to do is go into velocity, and I don't know why that is, but we see our sequences in here, and now I'll kind of modulate CV per step here using velocity. I don't know why that is. I don't know how velocity applies to modulation in this case, but it does. So you can see here I have a step sequence of velocity, just like you would see in like a voltage block or other Eurorack modulation sources. I love that. This is super freaking powerful. And not only all that, but CV outs. Right? And I believe the aux CV on here, correct me if I'm wrong, but the aux CV out here will send this sequence track elsewhere as CV. It'll use the sequence on Oscillator 1 to send CV and gate out. Why can't we have this on everything? Why Mono Station? Like, I don't know, maybe obviously I'm just Eurorack biased, but like, man, is this so hard? Give us this on everything, right? There's so many devices that I'm like, all the Polyan trackers, the entire Electron line, just Eurorack connections. And yeah, it's really surprising to see it on here. But I love it. There's so much to cover. And here in the gate length, you can set how many per step, how many steps it spans in sort of a weird way. If I was them rethinking this in 2025, which I was joking earlier about making a sequel to the circuit, but I kind of would do, I don't know, the Oxy 1 way, where you hold a note and then set its end by sort of drawing it in. This gate view where you sort of select the length of the gate triggers, it's not intuitive in my mind, but you can velocity sequence just like we did for the other one, where you can manually enter them. These pads are velocity sensitive. For me, I kind of like to live in the modulation matrix rather than sequence velocity. That goes for drums too, and this isn't necessarily a drum synthesizer, but I'm just like, I don't know, this isn't where I would want to live either, but where I would is, let's go into sessions view. This is probably where I should have started the video, but I think it's a little bit backwards, and what I would expect to be stored in the sessions view isn't really. So if I do a blank session, this is where our sequence was stored, so now there's nothing. You do get patch storing. So what I was just saying about how the structure is a little bizarre to me, I don't know why the patches aren't stored at the sessions view, but that's okay. It does kind of give you the opportunity to, you know, have one big array of your favorites and jump through them. However, you'll notice these load instantaneously. There is no delay between an entire recall, right? So what you can do, and this is super interesting, if you want to make a drum machine out of the Mono Station, and these are not drum patches, but you can. We'll hit record, hit play for live recording. I wish there was a metronome too. Come in here and just sequence entire different patches per step. So now if we go back over to our note view here, we are recalling entire different patches per step. And this isn't very musical, but if I add in a little more melody into my blanks, you just get this like affix mode thing. So when people say that the Mono Station is weird, it is. These are just like, these are not things I'd expect. Like, look at the panel just recalling on every step. And that actually sounds really good. And immediately I'm like, we're approaching a full song in that, right? And I'm thinking, okay, let's get some reverb in, let's get some delay, let's get some compression and kind of start to build on that little loop. And none of that is on here. And that is one of the glaring omissions from this thing. I'd say, like, everything, like, I don't know, looking at the peak, it has amazing DSP effects on it. Just like I don't know. Maybe, again, it's like lack of screen. How would you even present effects on board when everything is so beautifully laid out? But, like, I don't know. Feels like the one thing that could really make this complete is just like a nice-ass reverb. So using that same principle about how you can basically instantaneously recall parameters, I can come in here and do sort of, I want to say like parameter locking a la Analog 4 a little bit. So if I hit record, I'll come in here, set a pitch, and we'll adjust the frequency cutoff, the resonance, come in here, do a different note, change a couple things up. I don't think I can change, there's limits to it, right? I can't change the filter mode. I can't change the distortion type, I believe, but let's find out. Come in here, add a different filter, and here I will change the level cutoff and overdrive setting, hit play. So there's even more crazy things that I'm not going to cover today, like mutations, running the output back into the audio in for sort of feedback a la Minimoog. But I just say random, like, final thoughts, I guess, on the Mono Station. Like, it's super weird. I understand it probably didn't sell very well either. It was discontinued pretty quickly, but a really odd synthesizer, especially since I see Novation as, like, kind of synonymous with Ableton in a way with, like, the Launchpad and stuff. And then to see them do just, like, something really weird and out of pocket with this one, like, I know this is nearly a decade ago now, but, like, I don't know. It's a really cool synth and does some really interesting things. If you have the opportunity to try one out in your travels, I would definitely encourage you to do so. So thank you so much to Scrobot for lending me this one for this video. I'm Tafony. Let's jam this one out. Take care. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next video. Say goodbye, Clemmy. Bye, Clemmy.